Massaba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassama finds Masaba.
It's now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
Protests, statements from the chairman, and another lacklustre performance and another defeat at home, making it 8 now without a win at Hillsborough. We've seen this script many a times before, haven't we? Hello and welcome to Wednesday Tie-Dye Podcast. I'm delighted to say that this episode is sponsored by onthebeach.com. It's not, but judging by the performances yesterday, some of the players might have well have been, to be fair. I'm James Mappin. Alongside me, as he always is Matt Johnson. Matt, how's things? All good?
Yeah, I was up until about 10 minutes ago, James. We were just chatting about, because it's the Masters. Obviously, anybody who's a regular listener will know I'm a big golfer, and I've just watching not only my football club implode over the past month or so, I'm also now watching Rory McIlroy implode at Augusta. So yeah, it's going really, really well. It's going to be a really upbeat and cheery pod from me, James, tonight.
Do you know what? I've just been to the Steelers and they won, so they beat Glasgow. So
what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as Wednesday winning, I must admit, but it was all right nonetheless. I'm not exactly a big Steelers fan, but it's good, taking the kids and everything else, which is always it's quite a family friendly atmosphere, I would say. But a lot of singing and dancing, and the kids were waving the little thing around. Yeah, not. I can't see it kicking off at Hillsborough, to be fair. But
James, did you do foam fingers?
There was a lad in front that had one, and then Freddie, when we came home, said, "I want one of them hand thingies." So,
got you.
So yeah, that'll be probably about 30 quid or something ridiculous, like everything is, isn't it? To be fair, I mean, that was one highlight, but yesterday it wasn't looking like that. It doesn't rain, it pours, doesn't it? Went to the in-laws after the game. I mean, ordered a takeaway, as you do, after a bad game. That's kind of the ritual, isn't it? That's what we have to do. Don't rant and rave, just have a takeaway. Went to pick it up in the car. Tyre light comes on, and normally, I don't know about you, but I mean, I've never had a puncture in a car before, and that light comes on, and you just go, I'll go to a petrol station tomorrow or something like that, and just set the tyre pressures in, and it's absolutely fine. I was going past the petrol station. I thought I'll just pop in and just sort it out, get it all sorted. And then, pulled in, and then I've got out of the car, and I hear like a tss, and I thought it was the tire. I thought it was the machine, like they're just making a noise that I've pulled up against. No, it wasn't. It was the air rapidly coming out of the tire. And I'm like, and they're not run flat tires or anything like that. So it was absolutely flat as a pancake. So not only have I watched us lose yesterday in that manner that we did, but it's cost me 100 odd quid for a new tyre. So
I mean, when you were talking about punctures, James, I was thinking, that was me last week. That I've had three in a year, all on the front right as well. So I have now, Halfords have now got the tyre protection year guarantee out of me, and if it's not gone in a year, I'm just going to go out and stick a nail in my front tyre.
This week's episode sponsored by Halfords.
Some big name sponsors on the beach. Halfords here. On the beach,
Halfords. Who else can we get? Let's maybe the merch t-shirts.
The belter.
I mean, I've got the retro one out today. It's Streets Will Never Forget, of course. Dennis Adeniran there. Not a limited edition. That limited, you can't even get them anymore. So just in the pile of t-shirts I've just pulled out before we started. You mentioned about golf there. Is it on your bucket list to go to Augusta? I mean, it looks incredible, doesn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, it does. It does look incredible. And I think if you are, we were talking about it just before recording, weren't we, in terms of like pricing and all the rest of it. And I said, I think I am going to have to wait for some sort of inheritance or something to come through, because there's no way I could bloody afford it. We talk about price of season tickets. This is different level of it.
Do you think they whinge and moan over there? Do you think they have
the patrons are clapping very patiently at 5 a.m, going, fucking hell, 12 grand to get here.
They have early bird, do you know?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I wonder if they've got 7 phases though. That might be up there.
They might do. You never know. Right, let's.
Sorry, James. Just before we get onto all of the horrendous stuff that's been coming out of Sheffield Wednesday, how hard can it be too? Last time I tested my tyre pressure at the petrol station, I did it with the windscreen washer. Difficult to style out, so it could be worse.
Yes, that would be. I mean, I can remember when I first passed my test, and then the fuel light come on. I was like, "Yep, it's going to fill it up." I've seen this being done many a time before, and honestly, God, I got there and I was like, I don't even know how to. To open the fuel filler cap. That was that. I went in and I thought, I'm not going to stay here longer than I need to. I'm going to get back in the car. I'm going to drive off, pull into somewhere safe, and just work it out myself. And yeah, came back 5 minutes later. That was very embarrassing, but that was a long time ago. That so we'll just gloss over that. You know, yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's talk about again. If you've come here to listen to analysis of the Oxford game, we might get to it at the end. A lot has happened in this past week. It's very, very tiring being a Sheffield Wednesday fan at the moment. It's seemingly something is happening every single day, and it's nothing really positive either. But we've got to talk about it because, well, that's what people are here for. 10:40 a.m. Saturday morning. All of a sudden, my phone's going absolutely berserk. I'm just dropping my lad off at football. Our esteemed leader has written us a letter. I mean, you've all read it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and read it out because it's in excess of 1,000 words, and it would take about 8-9 minutes to read it. So I'm not going to sit here and read it. If you want to read it, go and read it yourself. I've picked up a few things out, and we'll discuss them. I'm not a perfect owner, and I have never claimed to be. He goes on to say, what I have tried to do is keep our club alive with growth and a stable future on and off the field. He admits that there's going to be criticism, but he wants it done respectfully. He then goes on to say, I do not have the intention to sell. I love the club, but if today, tomorrow, or another day in the future, if there's someone out there better, more suitable, and has the potential to take care of our club, I'm ready to pave the way for Sheffield Wednesday to move forward from a stronger position. He also says there'll be no offers, although there has been some interest, but nothing substantial. And he'll be meeting with the engagement panel on this Tuesday, the 15th of April, and he'll be using an interpreter after 10 years of us asking for one. He's finally took that advice. Matt, there's a hell of a lot to unpack from that. I mean, what did you think overall from when you kind of read that letter? Like, what was your initial reaction to it all?
Reads really similar to a lot of the other I'm sorry statements that he's put out previously. I obviously sent out a tweet surrounding it and highlighted one from September 2023, July 2020, and August 2018, all of which pretty much start off in the same vein. First off, let me start by apologising and then doing everything to try and shift the blame. Again, I thought he was very careful in his choice of words. Some of a bit, well, get on to obviously, James, but this sounds horrible because it does, it feels like an individual who's pouring their heart out and all the rest of it. The problem is we've got a bank of evidence to suggest that it's nothing more than lip service to people like us and everybody listening to this either live or after the event. I don't want to be overly critical when somebody is trying to hold their hands up and apologize, but there is a manner in which to do it, and this isn't it.
But for me, it feels, he's apologising, but he's had countless opportunities to apologise beforehand. It feels to me very much like, after I read it, firstly of all, the timing was absolutely impeccable.
Yeah.
Match day, which he seemingly likes to post these things, match day, and also a couple of hours before kickoff, and also there's a planned protest at this game as well. Like he couldn't have picked a better time to apologize. And like I said, he's had many times to apologize before. Why is it taken till today? Why not the day after, the day he paid the players? Do you know what I mean? If there's not a different ulterior motive to what he's putting out, you would just put it out in the middle of the week. Why does it have to be on match day? Do you know what I mean?
Why does it have to be the day of a planned protest? And we've seen this one before, if I'm correct, James. The last 1867 group protest organised yellow leaflets. We announced a signing 2 hours before kick-off in Ibrahim Sissoko, which, judging by the way in which Ibrahim Sissoko was played, that was
studs need to be a little bit longer. Maybe we might be able to control ball.
That was nothing other than try and shut this lot up. This definitely felt like that. This definitely felt like again, as you said, a strategic plan, because Mr. Chansiri did speak to a journalist on the Friday that he paid the players. An article was released a week ago when he came out, and an article saying that he paid the players. I didn't hear any apologies then. I didn't hear anybody shouting from the rooftops about, oh, I've made mistakes and, I've tried my best and blah, blah, blah. There was none of that then. It was, I've paid the players. That was pretty much the summation of that entire article that was with Alex Miller. It's only after a full week of further and continued fan pressure and media scrutiny and all the rest of it, and then a planned protest, which was obviously you had in on obviously Monday night. Monday night, wasn't it? Monday, Monday night. No, Wednesday. Sorry, on the debate show.
Wait a minute, Matt. I do this show every single week without fail for I don't know how many weeks it's been now.
I've got a link. I can save it, James. Carry on. Go on.
It's Wednesday evening. It's Wednesday evening.
It's Wednesday evening. But James, am I correct in thinking we've got a pod coming on Monday?
We have got a podcast on Monday. Yes, it's another live one. Another live at 8:00 with with Sell Before We Die, the Reading lot, titled "Are We the Next Reading?" So join us on Monday. I'm sure that will be a hoot. Talking about.
Honestly, James, I just going back to that original point. There's 10 years worth of evidence here of proof to the contrary of lots of things that were said in that statement. People are obviously able to read it and surmise and take what they want from it. I'm just way past the point of believing the sorries that I've cited 3 examples. That was only the ones that I could pull up in 5 minutes because our website's terrible. But it was, I was like, I've seen these before. They don't. I'll try not to make the same errors. And then guess what? The same errors are made almost 2 years down the line to the date every single time.
Yeah, I've not bought the sorry at all. I saw it as a person that was feeling the pressure a little bit. Obviously, since in the past couple of weeks, the supporters groups that are on the engagement panel have come out and said publicly that they feel that change is needed and that the chairman should sell the club. So I feel like there was a little bit like his comfort blanket. He could sound ideas off them, and he could tick the box that engagement had happened and he consulted people and they'd all agreed with it. He kind of had that with those meetings that has been had. He's probably there hasn't been a meeting since, but I feel like he's not got that anymore. So it's all his empire's slowly but surely just crumbling underneath him. And I feel like there is people that support him, there's people against protest, there's people that do like what he's doing. I don't know how they do, but there's still people out there that have that opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I feel like he was trying to, it was like a last ditch attempt to try and get people back on board. Those that were the fence sitters, be like, look, I'm doing my best, I'm trying, but I think it was a bit another PR own goal, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think he's had so many of them, and again, it's just not worked. It's far too late to say all these things. Like I said, there's been many a time before where he should have said it. I'll come on to the selling bit in a second. I just want to go through the comments because there's so many comments. Alex has said, sorry, he's not good enough, Chansiri. It's all on you, nobody else. Ian of the trust, I want to thank everyone for protesting on Saturday from the bottom of my heart. We'll get onto the protest in a bit, Ian, as well. Leanne said respect works both ways, Chansiri. Yep, 100%. Ian's also said we keep up the pressure by supporters and behind the scenes with the authorities. Ollie, doesn't matter about these statements. Nothing changes. It's totally rinse and repeat process. He said in that statement as well, Matt, that he doesn't want to sell, but he's open to offers if people come forward and things. For me, I don't know why he keeps hold of the fact that he doesn't want to sell. I think he's sending that mixed messages for me. I think it's, I think we'll just we'll probably get to a stage where he's not really got a choice, and he'll just have to sell the club in terms of he'll run out of money, which it sounds like he kind of already has, or I don't know, authorities might step in and there might be something else that forces him to get rid of the club. At the moment, I just don't get it. I just don't know why he just keeps saying I don't want to sell the club. It's like that's what he wants us to hear, but we don't. We want him to say quite the opposite.
Well, I mean, just before that statement was obviously this: I'm happy to leave if Sheffield Wednesday is in a better place, I think is the direct quote. And I hate to break it to you, Dejphon, but 10 years ago when you were in place, Sheffield Wednesday finished 13th on 60 points. Correct me if I'm wrong, James. We need 7 more points from the remaining 4 games. We won 5 games since 5 in the last 19 games since you fell out with the coach. It's unlikely we're about to go on a run and win 3 of 4. And if you think success is measured more on or off the pitch has been such a car crash that I thought it'd do him a favour and leave that out, because I'm aware that he's not the one who's picking the team, but it's been such a car crash there that I thought it's pointless talking about this. 10 years later and 10 years down the line since his ownership, we have gone nowhere. You've wasted 150 million quid of your family's money, and the stadium and the training ground are 10 years older with no visible sign of improvement either. It's not possible for you to choose to leave it in a better place because you've spent 10 years doing everything to the contrary. You can't just decide now, as long as somebody comes and leaves it in a better place and it's left in a better place, I'm happy. Well, that's not possible because you have effectively done nothing with it aside from chuck 150 million up the wall in 10 years. So it's not going to be in a better place. Will it be in a better place 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many years you want to go down the line? Possibly. But that's not your responsibility. That's not your problem. That's the new owner's problem when they come in, not yours. It's not... Yes, you can pick and choose who you wish to sell to, but at some point, you have to listen to the offers that are there ready to be taken. And okay, believe what you want from the conversations with regards to Simon and obviously him talking about prospective buyers. Again, people have made up their own opinions on that, and that's fine. Yeah. That's absolutely what those podcasts were for, to give information to people and for them to make up their mind about whether they agree with it or whether they don't. I am not of the opinion that clubs like Tranmere, that clubs like Wrexham, that Stockport, all of these random clubs around the EFL can go out and find a buyer, and what the last big English club that is available and viable for a reasonable price can't be sold. Like that, that to me just makes absolutely no sense. Like absolutely no sense. So again,
well, he's come out, Matt, and said that people say that I block people coming in to try and buy the club, and he said that's not true. But just look at how difficult he is to deal with, just from a fan's perspective. Like, you look at all the people that have tried to work with him, in any sort of either advisory role or any role. Even the coaches and managers that we have in don't seem to work well with him. No. Tony Pulis, you look at him. Darren Moore, he felt falling out. Danny Reels had a falling out with him as well. Like there's like a pattern emerging here. Do you know what I mean? And it's him being very difficult. It's either him being really difficult or just the setup just doesn't work whatsoever. And that's going to work the same with new owners that are going to come in or people that want to buy the club. These, like you just said there, there's other football clubs out there. You're going to look and go, I might try and buy this one. And then you're going to think, he's an absolute nutcase. This isn't going to be easy. So you're just going to go somewhere else. Like you're just going to be, going to try and buy something else instead. It's not just do or die. It's not Wednesday or nothing. Yep. If it's a fan that's probably coming in, it's a little bit different because you've got a vested interest in the football club. But guess what? Probably most owners out there, certainly now anyway, maybe in the past that quite a lot were from the area and that's why they wanted to own the club. Now it's not the case. When you've got like American owners, Saudi owners, China, Thailand, all these places all over the world, they're not fans. Like as much as he says he's a Sheffield Wednesday fan, Ian, like let's be honest about it. Like he's just maybe it's a little bit harsh, but he's only a Wednesday fan because he's bought the club. Like that's it. Once he's gone, like that, do you know what I mean? He'll move on to something else instead. But yeah, he's got to just. He said he is open for offers. It was kind of like a half-arse saying he's up for sale, but it's not. I don't. Again, just put the for sale sign up outside, and people will then come to the table, and we'll see. Let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, on that, James, the trade-off and the flip side to this is obviously we do plenty of very honest conversation on here surrounding when we see good stuff, we see good, and when we see something that we don't agree with, we don't agree with. Do I think that it is now time for those who are potentially interested parties waiting in the wings to submit offers in the next few weeks? Yes.
Yeah,
because we've mentioned, and we have been a voice on this podcast for mentioning there is a window of opportunity for the chairman a number of times on this pod, whether it's been me, whether it's been you, whether it's been Simon, whether it's been anybody else who's on. We've talked about this window opportunity getting smaller and smaller the worse and worse it gets, because if we end up in a relegation fight next year and we end up going down, I hope that's not the case, but if that's the case, we're going to be significantly less attractive proposition. But I'd argue the window of opportunity is now flipped over onto those prospective buyers. If and only if the club does not play ball, then you release the information. Because I saw a lot of people saying, in response to kind of comments and stuff like that surrounding recent articles that, recent pods that we've put out, oh, well, they just need to shut up and just say who they are and come forward. If and only if the club does not play ball with the requests that come now, then you talk about releasing that information in a controlled manner. But again, I understand the point of not wanting your name attached to a failed bid, because you are then into a he said, she said, back and forth slagging match, and that does absolutely nobody any favours. Absolutely no one. Like, it doesn't do our prospective buyers, it doesn't do our prospective owners, anybody. It does nobody involved in that situation, because it just ends up with fans' animosity again. Yeah. Fail bid at the chairman, fail bid at a prospective owner for not being able to get the deal done. Everybody ends up angry. And then when we do, like we did all of that digging on Talal, the ex-Watford chairman, you do one quick Google search and inside of 30 seconds, you've made your mind up that they're terrible. I understand the perspective of you don't want your name attached to, as a prospective owner, a failed bid.
Well, that's why they need to come out there and be public and put. If someone comes out there with a plan, I'm not being funny, but the vast majority of the Wednesday fan base will latch onto it straight away, because it's something that we've never seen for the last 7 or 8 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of a plan moving forward. He came in and he said, what did he say? Premier League football in the next
5 years.
5 years when he first came in. Other than that, I've not heard anything in terms of any sort of plan. And do you know what? And I hope whoever, because it will happen at some point. Chansiri is not going to own the football club forever. It's going to happen. And I do hope that right now, if it was to happen, if someone did come in, I don't want him to say Premier League in 5 years. Ultimately, of course, that's where we want to end up. That's as every football fan does. But the bar is so low at the moment in terms of our expectation, or my expectation of the club. I just want him just to be just normal, just a normal club that treats the fans as fans and just respects the fans and treats us fairly. I don't want us to be robbed blind, and let's just get us in line with everyone else. All that sort of stuff can come later. Do you know what I mean? We can look at that, but it's all the off the pitch stuff that just needs fixing. The stadium, the training ground, the academy, all that. We're way behind on. Not even those down the road. Everyone else, all the other clubs, are just streets ahead of us at the moment, and we just need to just get back onto an even keel, because we just
agreed.
He rolls a dice, Chansiri, and luckily he's rolled a few sixes. Do you know what I mean? With Danny Röhl and the Peterborough game and the playoffs and stuff like that. He's rolled a few sixes and he's looked on it a little bit. And but unfortunately, he's rolled a lot of ones. So that's why we're here today talking about this, as we have been for seemingly every single week at the moment.
Because the other thing is, James, there, when just going back to that point that you were making about kind of treating fans better, because in that statement there was a lot of we and our. There was a lot of those mentions of statements and kind of like, you've got to trust this and blah blah blah. Do you know what? Honestly, James, as a big fan of the Harry Potter films, it felt like Voldemort coming out at the end of kind of like the last Harry Potter book or the second film, and coming out and going, "You put your faith in me." He's claiming that an individual buying the club, This was the bit that I was most angered by, this part here, where he's talking about, forget lawyers, forget NDAs, forget all of that. Their word means more to me. Dejphon, the problem is your word means absolutely nothing to anyone, as you have spent 8 years playing fast and loose with the truth. When it's our club or it's yours, in every single attempt to protect yourself in your interests, that is the only time that you use it. You don't ever use this when it's like, fans running on the pitch against Peterborough. We just mentioned that. That was coming up on 2-year anniversary since the miracle of Hillsborough. After that, it wasn't, listen, I'm going to ignore the fact that I've got to pay a fine for this.
Just pay it.
He come out and said, I've had to pay a fine, stay off the pitch.
We shouldn't even know about it. Just pay it. Like, it don't happen every single week. We don't run on the pitch every single week in every game. Yeah. It's literally, it's a game dubbed the Miracle of Hillsborough, literally written off by everyone. And, it just happened. And you know what? You see it in every playoff game, whoever team wins. If it's at home in the second leg, they run on the pitch. I'm not saying it's a ritual. It's a bit, sometimes it does look a bit tin pot, but I mean, come on, literally that scenario is never happening again in football, let alone in Sheffield Wednesday's history. So, it's almost like he doesn't like any sort of positivity, does he?
Not that's not involving him, because then to come back to that point I was just going to make there about the about any prospective buyers, please forgive any prospective buyer who would prefer to have a lawyer involved in a multi-million-pound deal. We're not buying an Xbox off Facebook Marketplace here. We're talking about a bottomless money pit. Yeah.
To be fair, there might be more expensive Xboxes on Facebook Marketplace in better conditions than this football club at the moment.
You're probably quite right there. But we are talking here not about, I don't know, like a spare tyre, James, off Facebook Marketplace, secondhand, part worn. I don't need a lawyer for this. I can make my own judgment. We are talking about a bottomless money pit that you have allowed to spiral into disrepair here. Anyone who says, why do you need an NDA? Because there's also been a lot of this. Well, why do you need an NDA to submit an offer? It's standard common practice. I know nothing about business, but I do know that if I was dealing with this chairman and this situation, I would want as much protection as possible. I would want to be lawyered up to the eyeballs. Number one, because I can afford it. And number two, so I don't have some type of shady nonsense pulled from under me where I think I've bought anyone and all of a sudden, that's it, everything's there. And just going on to this point here, Richard, it's a bottomless money pit which people want to buy. Yes, that is just the nature of a football club, Richard. Football clubs are just a bottomless money pit. It's not just Sheffield Wednesday.
There's about 3 or 4 professional football clubs that don't lose money, and they're not doing that well either. To be fair, they're all just lose. Which, I mean, this is for another time, but football is just broken. It is well and truly broken as a business, because it just does not make any sense, does it? It literally just doesn't make any sense. The reward is football's been allowed to get out of control. What's Salah's contract now? £450,000 a week.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But again, if you are one of those top clubs, you can do this, and you are going to do everything that you can to protect it. Of course you can. You can do everything that you possibly can to protect it. Sorry, Richard, I feel like I'm digging you out here, because again, I've just seen in the comments, players are paid too much. I disagree. I don't think players are paid too much. I think they're in the 0.03% of the population who have been successful enough to play a world game of football all over. If somebody's stupid and daft enough to chuck 400 grand at them, that's not their problem. That's the club who's buying them and the club who's putting the money into their pockets. It's a football issue, not the players. From my perspective anyway. But I just kind of sit there and I'm just like, do you know what? You can't dictate. You can dictate a price for this, 100%. You can dictate a price for this, but you are going to have some movement on it. But Chansiri will have a figure in his head that he deems as acceptable, which nobody knows, by the way. Nobody knows. We've all speculated on it, and there's a ballpark kind of estimate, but it will probably go above that because of this owner. That's fine, because I think somebody will see the potential and go, do you know what? I've paid over the odds for it. Yeah, it's not a great start. I'll have to kind of find a way to make my money back. And that might be the first 2 years when we've got some exciting players. I just get rid of them and sell them to try and make up the deficit here. However, the control about who comes in and buys this now is out of your hands, and how they want to do business is out of your hands. You are just really, he was just, Chansiri, when he originally bought it, was just fortunate that he bumped into Mandaric, who was desperate to get rid of the club. And he was very open about it. It's why I hold no personal grudges towards Milan Mandaric, because Mandaric was like, look, I've bought this football club because it's a footballing institution. Let's get rid of that. It's not that. He bought it because he saw a way to make a couple of quid. It's not because it's one of these footballing institutions of England, but he tried to peddle and it would all be this. No, let's not be so thick. It was because he could make some money.
Yeah.
But he knew the only way to get this man to deal with it was to do it based on trust and honor and all the rest of it. And actually, that was the way that it should have been dealt with. If you're in Chansiri's position and a person says, I want lawyers crawling all over this, there comes a point, and this is it. You can't pay playing staff. You can't pay transfer fees unless Sky up their budget for what they're going to give you every year. You are potentially seeking in-house for the next coaching recruitment. You are not in control of this situation, and you haven't been for the last 5 or 6 years. So you can't be in full total control of this either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to kind of echo what Rob Staten said on, I think it was, I want to say Thursday night. I want to say it was clipped off. It was put on socials as well, where he just kind of said that, fans deserve answers to some of these questions, and some of these questions haven't been asked, and they've kind of gone under the radar a little bit. Things such as, where does your money come from? Where does this money come from? Because when you're searching on Companies House over in this country, you find D-taxes and you find Sheffield 3, and then you find Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, and that's about it. You don't see, and they don't make any money. None of them do. Obviously, apparently he's got businesses over in Thailand, and he mentioned that it was waiting on an invoice to be paid, hence why he couldn't pay the players, which is alarming in itself. But it's all really secretive over there. They don't have a Companies House. You can't really find much out. Certainly not me anyway. Just doing a couple of Google searches, you come up with absolutely nothing. Very secretive. But he's never come out and said what they are. I've seen a few people. I mentioned it earlier on Twitter, and someone said apparently he's got a construction firm or something. But we need. I feel like we do need to kind of know, because if it was, I don't know, owner of Nestle or whoever it called, where you can look and you go, wow, they've got a few coin. Do you know what I mean? They're doing all right. I think us as a football club might be all right for quite some time. We're not going to run out of money. Whereas we don't know that. He's not paid the players this month. The tax bill will be due at the end of this month as well, I believe. And wages will be due this month and next month and the month after and the month after that. Do you know what I mean? What sort of guarantee? Because he hadn't come out in this letter to say, don't worry, guys, we're all right. We've got money. He hadn't said any of that. He's just skirted over that. He just said, sorry, it's business and this happens. But there's been no guarantee that this won't happen again. So have we just got to wait until the end of this month and just hope that we don't get this transfer embargo as well? And again, Rob said there's lots of other questions that need to be answered as well. In terms of where's the money gone? Where's all the season ticket money gone? Why he came out and said he's spending £2 million, or the club is spending £2 million every month. I know he doesn't have to come out and disclose absolutely everything, but when these things start to go wrong, we said this last week as well, when you don't disclose any information, you can't then get angry when people start to speculate. Do you know what I mean? When you've got 20,000 fans that walk into Hillsborough, probably, I don't know how many Wednesday fans is there around the world, 40, 50, 60, I don't know. I've no idea. There's a lot of Wednesday fans out there. When you've got that many people, things do start to, people start to talk. And when you don't shut down any of the rumors whatsoever, then you've got to really expect it. When things are going wrong, people start saying things, whether it's right or wrong. It's just fact, and it's just facts of life. Yeah. That's what happens. But Rob's also called for some sort of live interview. I know he's asked, but he's got declined. That was when the wages hadn't been paid. he was saying after the game on Saturday that he feels like something should be done. Do you feel like he should do something like that now?
Yeah, of course, but that requires openness and transparency with the chairman, and he's shown he's simply unwilling to do that because he's not in control of the narrative if that happens. The recent articles with the Star, as helpful as they were in clearing up the payments issue, they didn't ask the impactful questions. Now, I appreciate that the issues around the club at the moment are happening at 100 mile an hour. But it seems some follow-ups about assurances that this won't happen again, and what guarantees can you give being omitted. And I think reading between the lines of those kind of interviews that the chairman has given on his terms, to be perfectly clear here, James, I am not blaming the journalists involved. Like, it was Alex Miller this time. I know Joe's potentially had ones with it. I'm not blaming them at all, because I think for my money, they do a fantastic job. I am simply highlighting the fact that the chairman appears outside looking in to be dictating how those interviews and what questions he is willing to speak on, rather than actually allowing an interviewer just to sit down like we see. I mean, they still lie, but like every Sunday morning on BBC, you have got MPs put up, prime ministers put up in front of a national audience to answer questions that are impacting the country, and they can't dictate the narrative. They can't duck away from those questions. They can't run from them. Why can't the same happen about running a stupid football club like nicest will in the world? Why can't that happen? Because again, if we were 18 months into an ownership, okay, ideally I'd like it. I'd really, really like it. But I'd kind of probably have enough to say, well, do you know what? If everything's been going all right, then that's fine. We're 10 years in, and aside from the first 2, it's been a car crash. Like an absolute car crash that steadily declined downhill in terms of from an ownership perspective. And going back to that point that you were making there, James, because that is right about this stuff to do with speculation. There was I've got the statement open in front of me. Sorry, but apologies all. It's taking me a while to scroll through it because it's 1,000 words. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs just on speculation and insinuation and rumor, and don't believe everything that you hear. That may well be true, because as we've always said on this podcast, James, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Probably,
the truth is always somewhere in the middle. We've got one side kind of, there we go, I'm on the screen now. We've got one side here and one side here. The truth is always somewhere in the middle of all of those statements. I'm not denying that for those individuals involved, it's their truth, because it may be how they perceive it and they believe it to be entirely true. But usually the truth is somewhere in the middle of all of this.
Well, we've seen that because, we've had Simon saying that there's interest, and then we get Chansiri saying there's been no bids.
Yeah.
And both statements are true.
Yeah.
I mean, like
both
there has been interest. Yeah. There has been interest, and there has been no bids. It's not like one's lying and one. And the other. I think like people have been very clever in how they've kind of come across. Because if you just read it, if you just skim read it, you go liar. That means he's lying now. Yeah, he just said this. But actually, when you take time to actually read it and put both side by side, you realise that actually, They both can be true. So very, very clever. How it's been
because
worded.
he didn't deny that there has been interest. He said that there has been interest, but that no firm bids have been tabled. The other side of the argument is, well, we can't table a firm bid because nobody takes it seriously. So both sides can be completely true. And again, I know Simon's been on before, and he's a big boy and he can speak for himself. But he's talked about the fact that we're at an impasse, and that impasse has to be moved by the person wanting to sell the football club.
Yeah.
And Simon's been very open about that and spoken about that before. It's just, I kind of sit here, James, and now we're at a point where, say for argument's sake, he's going to, when you were talking about the wages there and the £2 million that the club is leaking out, what was it? It was a 6-figure sum, wasn't it, that the players weren't paid? Reported was anywhere between 250 to 500 grand, depending on who you listen to, yeah? That is at best 1.5 million. Where's the rest of the money going? Nobody knows. Nobody has a clue, because Hillsborough, the same as it was yesterday, Hillsborough's relatively full, more full than anything else. I know it's an expensive stadium. I know there are overheads and I know there are costs and blah, blah, blah. Where's the rest of that money going? Like, where is it going? Like, is it going to contracts that we don't know about? There's been a number of people who've posted stuff on socials in recent that we've settled legal disputes for large and vast sums of money. When we're talking, we can't pay say 250 grand, we're settling legal fees for like, what is it, 3 million or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Where is this money going? And you are just coming back to that original point about Rob, James, you're 100% right. A journalist has put themselves forward and said, I want to ask these questions on behalf of the fans.
And they've straight up said no.
And they've straight up said, no, we're not dealing with that. You can't then go and release a 1,000-word statement where you're saying we or our, trust me, trust this, I'm sorry, please believe in me. You can't do that when you're refusing to do the other.
But it's not revolutionary. These, I think Rob said himself, like he's had chats with chairman of other or CEOs of other clubs. And guess what, John? If he had a CEO, you'd shove them in front of the cameras. Do you know what I mean? And that's their job to deal with it. But guess what? You didn't have one, so you've got to front it yourself. And he's just ducking and weaving and getting away with it all the time by bringing this comment up. Where is it now? Kevin, DC's never going to say where his funding comes from because he doesn't have to. Yeah, I get that. But again, like, you don't then start crying when people are, getting worried about it. And again, it's a football club. It's not just any other business. Like, it is especially, I can obviously talk for Sheffield Wednesday fans. I'm sure United fans down the road are exactly the same. Like, it's a way of life for so many people. It's been here for 150 years. It'll still be here for another God knows how many years after, hopefully. And it's something that everyone looks forward to. The summers are crap when there's no football for most people. They can't wait till the season starts. Everyone gets excited about fixtures coming out, because it's like, oh, it's a bit of football, seeing when we play.
Loosely related to the thing I'm obsessed with.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, we're linked with a League Two player. Oh my God, like watching YouTube videos of him all the time, just living.
Sorry, James, I'm just going back to the summer of watching YouTube highlights of Olaf Kabatsky and thinking we'd sign someone.
Oh yeah, those are the days. Watching Siriki Dembele, thinking, oh my God, we're going to sign him. Is it going to be this week?
Look, 3 weeks of just mountains of content on a glad who went to QPR. Oh man, but it is. Yeah. I mean, just. Again, the other thing was obviously because this statement was obviously released with the stuff around an emergency meeting of the engagement panel as well. That was also mentioned alongside of it. Let's not forget this, where he has been open to the fact that he's going to have an interpreter, which credit where credit's due. It's fantastic.
Down the line.
Fantastic. It's 10 years too late, but yet fantastic. We might actually get to be able to understand, because so many people, you've been in those meetings, you've sat there, you've listened to them.
Yeah, Christ, I wish there were an interpreter then. It would have been about 3 hours, 3 hours less than it took.
But that's the point, isn't it? Because what a lot of people have said, no matter how critical or no matter how staunchly against the chairman's running of the football club that they have been, they have all said he is misinterpreted. Every single one of them, because the nuance of the language is, like English is a fucking complex language. It's not easy, is it? Like tone, like every kind of bit of feeling kind of comes out in kind of how you word things, not kind of just necessarily what's coming out your mouth.
It's like the word fan and customer. Let's give him the benefit of doubt here. Could in his language be very, very similar. Do you know what I mean? Let's just give him benefit of doubt for a second. Yeah. And that's what you mean. But I think he uses it to his advantage, though. Like, I think he uses that he can just talk for 15 minutes. And you mentioned, from personal experience, he'll talk and you'll have something to say, but you can't butt in because you get told by Trevor before. I got told before we sat down. Just let you know, like, he doesn't like to be interrupted. You have to wait until he's finished and then ask your next question. You got told that straight away, so he'll think you're rude and he'll just end the meeting. So you're like thinking, oh shit, like, oh my, like, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But then, so you think of something to say, and then he's just gone round the houses so much. One, you're thinking, if I say something now, he's going to speak for another 15 minutes. And two, you've actually forgot what you're going to say in the first place, unless you write it down. Like, do you know what I mean? You've just, so again, I think he just bullies you into submission just by talking and talking and talking. You think, oh, I just don't want to sit here any longer. Like, it's just boring me to death. Agreed. And again, I think he uses that to, whether he consciously or not, it certainly works. And he just gets away with it every single time. Well, pretty much, anyway.
Yeah, well, on the basis of the last 8 years, yeah, I agree 100%. This is the first time that we've seen real fan unity. But just, yeah, on that, the fact that the supporters groups, and I'm only going off what the Armed Forces have put out here. The Armed Forces supporters group obviously put out and released a tweet almost immediately straight after, so you knew somebody was really angry.
Yeah,
and that's the last.
yeah.
I mean this really nicely. That's the last person I'd want to piss off.
Yeah.
They'd put out a statement saying that they'd been given 4 minutes notice prior to the statement that there would be a panel meeting, which is 1 working day's notice, which then there were some people in the comments going, oh, what are you crying for? These are not short meetings. I've never been to an engagement panel meeting, but our last fans forum went on for 6 bastard hours. These are not short meetings. I really, really hope somebody responds because it's on Tuesday. I really hope somebody responds to that conversation with see you next Tuesday. I really, really hope somebody responds because if you don't, you've missed the trick there.
Yeah. And do you know what as well? I hope that the right questions are being asked.
Agreed.
I don't want to see questions about flasks in the minutes. Do you know what I mean? I want to have
E-bars. I don't want nothing where fans are asking for a pat on the back. Like, I mean that very nicely. And I'm sorry to all of those supporters groups who are involved, because I know supporters groups themselves do a fantastic job of representing the supporters who have signed up to them. You know, like the Trust have exploded recently. They've been very grateful, but you know, credit where credit's due. A lot of those people signed up because the Trust were very vocal about wanting answers. The Trust have stuck to their word, and they have backed. You know, they have stuck to their word.
Yeah, I just hope that the right questions are being asked. I hope that you know we because the other thing as well, we ask questions. Is he going to answer them? I don't know, but again, that'll be a massive own goal again. Do you know what I mean from him? So, you know, you can be very clever with the questions that get put forward. They need to be difficult questions. They will be difficult, and it you know it is difficult when you talk to him. He's quite intimidating as a person, and you've got to, you know, if you want to be in that room, then you've got to, you know, you've got to put these forward. And I'm, you know, very looking forward to seeing 1, what gets asked, and 2, what his responses are going to be when these when the minutes come out, probably in November or something like that. And
there'll be no tweet about that. That will just be placed on the website.
Oh,
That is very much down to those supporters groups who are in the room to make sure that those meeting minutes are published in full view for everybody to see.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. Right, let's move on. The only question is, how much does he want for the club? This will determine if there is a buyer or not. And then Chef Cam's come in, $6 billion.
Sorry, James, just because that was lighthearted. Let me just go back to this one here, because this isn't so lighthearted from Matt. Matt, it's really great to see you in here. I know you're in here. I know you're in here most weeks, so it's really good to see you, mate. A lot of players and managers have come from Amadou Pakshaw, not DC. That works both ways, because who the hell is Amadou Pakshaw? I am 10 years on. I know he is a super agent, but aside from that, I am none the wiser. What on earth is your involvement with this football club for 10 years? What do you do here? What is your point? Just telling me you are a trusted advisor. Cool. I'm a trusted advisor to my 4-year-old son. Like, I'm a, you know, like, what on earth do you do? What is your remit? Because again, I can't, apologies. There's been so many comments, and we are really grateful for them coming in, but somebody had put it further up. I think it actually, tell you what, Chef Cam found it. Chef Cam shock. It's a really sensible comment from yourself. My very first alarm bell rang in season 1 when we signed about 3 players before we'd even appointed a manager. How frequently does that happen at this football club? We sign players before we actually appoint a manager. Now, in a well-run club, nobody would question that. In a well-run club, not one person would question that, because they go, oh, that fits with the strategic vision of the coach. But we jump from different manager to different manager, different playing style to different playing style. So this is definitely clearly down to somebody's got a contact.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that about being a normal club. And this is what happens when, you know, when you're doing well, things can you buy yourself some time. Do you know what I mean? In any line of work. Do you know what I mean? But when things are constantly going wrong, then you start looking. And you start looking at things, and things that you would just gloss over now start to become a big problem. And then it's the next one and the next one. And he just doesn't help himself with any of the things that he does. He doesn't have any quick wins. You know, E-bar, whoa, great stuff. Got this E-bar, fantastic. But everyone's going to look at the negatives. They're going to go, £6.40 for a pint. Do you know what I mean? That's the first comment that you get. Nobody's like, oh, well done. It's just all the negatives. So the positives have to be a little bit bigger than just putting an E-bar up that broke, apparently. The one on the North Stand broke after I don't know, 10 minutes or whatever it was. Like, you know, you have to do a little bit more than that. And again, there's been so many own goals. Like we we spoke about all this all before. I don't need to go over it again.
Well,
It's a lot more that we can do, and we just don't really do it at all. Go on, if you want to say something.
I've just starred one from Ian here, who obviously is associated to the Sheffield Wednesday Trust, and I know we're going to come on to talk about the protests and the fantastic work. But Ian said, "Do you think he will intimidate me?" Ian, I mean this very nicely. Never met you, mate, but I watched the pod on Monday. Sorry, Wednesday. There we go. Nearly had you again, James, there. I watched your pod on Wednesday. Ian, I'll be honest, I think you could be stood in front of anybody, and I think you would still remain very, very much level-headed and firmly the same as you were on there. So, yeah, no, I'm really delighted that somebody like Ian and other representatives who we've seen come out on other podcast platforms this past week who will also be there, because genuinely, and I can only go off the faces, obviously, that I've seen, everybody who came out there came across as incredibly level-headed, very well-mannered, but also unwilling to budge, which actually is really, really nice from a Sheffield Wednesday fan perspective, who is not one of the people who is currently sat on there, because I have much more implicit trust that those people will ask the difficult questions.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's move on to the protests. So Ian came on the debate show on Wednesday, as you rightly mentioned, to announce that there was going to be a protest. By the way, I didn't even have a heads up for that either. He just came on and just said it, which surprised me a little bit. Kind of like, all right, fair enough. Don't normally have these shock announcements on debate shows. I know I have lots of opinions and things like that. But yeah, he came on and did that. Obviously, asking fans to turn their back on 10 minutes and to hashtag turn your back on Chansiri. No, I'm going to be brutally honest here as well. I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit apprehensive going into it. I mean, I was banging the drum ever since Wednesday because I think it was a great idea. And kind of as it edged ever closer, I was just hoping for dear God that it had a decent take up, and it got to. I mean, we nearly scored, didn't we? A couple of seconds before 10 minutes.
It's about to slate a player who's been getting a lot of online criticism, then, James. I thought I better not.
Yeah, nearly scored. And then, on 10 minutes, a lot of people. I've seen mixed people. Some saying some saying a lot, some saying half. I thought it was more than half. I couldn't give you a definitive number, but it was certainly a lot of people. Certainly, again, I'll be brutally honest, certainly more than I expected, because as last week proved, a lot of talk on social media. There wasn't many chants or anything like that. But so I was very pleased with how many people actually took part. And I just want to say as well, to all the people that were saying, "Oh, that's it now. Monday's going to come round. He's going to put the club up for sale. He's going to get rid of it. He's going to be gone," just because people stood up and turned around. You're totally missing the point completely. That protest was not about him now suddenly going, "Oh, they've turned around. I'm going. Oh, nobody likes me anymore. I'm going to go." What it was more about for me was everyone coming together on a common goal. It was something that everyone's there already. They don't have to go anywhere. You have to stand up and turn around. And it was more to see whether there's an appetite for it or not. Agreed. Because, again, I'll be brutally honest, people don't like to be embarrassed. Nobody wants to be like to turn up to something and nobody else be there. Like the strength in numbers, and people want to know that other people are going to turn up. Now, I believe after yesterday, if something else was planned, there would be a hell of a lot of people that would turn up, because you saw on Saturday afternoon at 3:10 how many people stood up, turned around, and faced the opposite way. Again, turning your back on Chansiri. So that's what it was more about. Everyone coming together and actually doing something rather than just typing a few hurty words on social media.
I thought it was without wanting to try and blow too much smoke up people's arses here, I thought it was a perfectly kind of like framed situation, because we've seen so many people turning down holding up a yellow leaflet and being vehemently against doing that. We've also seen a lot of noise about people, again, I'm very open about the fact, and my voice tells you it, I'm not from the city of Sheffield, and people saying that we don't like to be told what to do here. We'll make our own minds up. you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't want the chairman out and you can't want, change to come at your football club. But then when somebody tries to stand up and do something, and to borrow a phrase from yourself, James, to stick your head above the parapet, you then can't just sit there and criticize. And then when something happens like there, the other side of that coin is both me and you have seen an awful lot of people on socials, because obviously that's primarily where we see a lot of the comments, obviously because it's a social media platform, coming out and saying, do you know what, I was a supporter of his, I've changed, my mind's completely flipped on it. And that has been in the past 3 or 4 months. I would honestly say yesterday that was probably as well as that could have gone yesterday in terms of a fan turnout from those who were at the game. Yeah, I agree with you. I would have loved to have heard more chanting. I would have loved to have heard kind of like a constant chorus like there was at Blackburn away on Tuesday from the away end, about kind of like those songs were just on repeat. Whenever there was a lull in the game, it was, right, let's go back to the old favourites about Dejphon. It was really, really constant and consistent. Hillsborough's not there yet. Hillsborough as a mass fan base is not there yet. I don't know why. Beggars belief as to why, but I genuinely thought that was a really, really well thought out form of fan protest, because from a visual representation standpoint, as you say, as an owner now, you can't say, which he has done in the past, if the majority of fans want me to go, I'll go. Well, there was a majority there yesterday.
It was, yeah.
There was a majority. Like, percentage.
The tide's turned, hasn't it? The tide has turned over the past 3-4 months, certainly over the past couple of weeks anyway. The tide has well and truly turned now, and there is more that want change than there is that don't. And a lot of people have been asking for stronger protests. People saying, yeah, I will do it, but we want something more. Again, it's about wanting to walk before you run. Yeah, of course, I'd love to see a protest be arranged, and then all of a sudden everyone take part in it. But guess what? Like there was pushback on people standing up and turning around by people that actually want him to go. People have just got to get on board. There was a call last week by myself to stop all this infighting. Just please stop it. Social media gives everyone a voice, and it's great that everyone does have a voice, but you don't have to agree or disagree with absolutely every single thing that's said. You don't have to do it. If you can just be silent, just let it happen. Like, you don't have to have an opinion on it both ways all the time. Like, just leave it. If you want, all these people that are saying it should be this, that, and the other, you do it then. Yeah, you go out there and do it. Or contact these people, or don't sending tweets or whatever. All these fan groups, that was another call to arms by the trust and by people that have come out, all the fans groups. Go to your respective fan group and that you feel comfortable with, and put these things across and get them to organise these protests. Don't just keep firing things, criticising absolutely everything that fans are trying to do, because we're all trying to do it for the same reason. Maybe we're going about it different ways because people have different walks of life, different, people value different things differently, some more than others, but we're all trying to do it for the right reason. Let's stop slagging people off left, right, and centre constantly about trying to do something, trying to help each other. Because honestly, it really, really grates on me. And every time I posted about the, getting people to, raising awareness for this protest, trying to do my bit, like literally seconds after it's gone on, is someone, what's the point? Why are we doing this? Like, and then you read their tweets, and they want him gone. Like, what? What? Honestly, you're right, James, because it does beggars belief a little bit. And I am very much of the firm opinion that a lot of those members of supporters groups have been very forward facing, and if you fall into one of the categories, or if you're not in a category, the supporters trust are, as Ian's quite rightly said, are linked, the only supporters group that are linked to the FSA. They are a really dominant and large and vocal voice in terms of like the amount of support and kind of numbers and members that they now have, obviously off the back of kind of like the recent kind of like swell of people looking towards somebody. I'm fairly sure that every single one of those people who've put their name to something or their face to something are open to being contacted by somebody.
and saying, look, I want to get involved. How can I help? How can I do this? Like, what can I do to help support kind of like your efforts for it? Because again, I suppose that was the only tinge of, I don't want to say, I suppose sadness is too strong a word. That was the only thing that I did think from this week, is that there was a lot of supporters groups who have come out, and I am genuinely really, really pleased for it. But I do think there was a missed opportunity on the week from Wednesday, obviously when Ian came on, from other members of the engagement panel to come out and be supportive on their larger platforms surrounding it, because I know individuals shared it and 100% supported it throughout kind of like the week and all the rest of it, and then obviously will have done so yesterday at the game and blah blah blah. And I would have quite liked to have seen kind of like a unified like approach from everybody on that, because I think the statements that came out the following week, regardless of whether you thought they were strong enough or not, it was impactful and it did make a huge difference to it. I think it's just that kind of like consistency of messaging that those who are on the engagement panel or other supporters groups who aren't, remaining kind of like united in that belief surrounding wanting the chairman to sell up. Having said that, I can understand as to why some potentially chose not to do it, because some of those have got thousands of people who are signed up to them, and getting a kind of straw poll of an opinion, like even if you just put a survey out in the last, like in 24 hours, if it goes into your inbox and your emails and you're not keeping an eye on them, like, I mean, I don't keep an eye on my own emails, like, oh my God, like work emails slightly different. My own emails, Jesus Christ, I don't want to think about how many unread ones are in there. You might miss it. And then you might feel, well, this doesn't represent me. And then obviously an individual feels quite, a particular way about it. And I do understand that. But
I mean, this is probably why I'm not ahead of some sort of supporters group, because again, I suppose at some point you have to just, I don't know. Are all supporters groups a democracy where it's just, if you get 51% of the vote, then you go ahead? I don't know. I don't know how they run. I feel like sometimes there has to be a point where you just have to make a decision. And again, I don't know. I've not spoken to any of the supporters groups on how or why they have or they haven't chosen to do all these things. But I do echo what you said. I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't more of a banging of the drum for that, even when they've come out and actually collectively come together. And again, I've been part of these types of things, and things happen so slow, and things have rapidly just happened really quickly, haven't they? And you have to kind of react to what's happening. And sometimes, when you're having to like get people to agree to things, and then there's it is very, very difficult. But it's I would have liked to see a little bit more. Go on.
Yeah, I've just highlighted this comment here from Daz, which thank you, Daz, for the comment. And also thank you for being so open and honest about it as well. He said, I was one of those that thought, what on earth is turning your back going to do? Mainly because our history of protesting. I was delighted that the majority did turn around and it did make a massive statement. We should definitely do something similar again, maybe on the 18th minute in the first half and the 67th minute in the second half. Those are the type of suggestions and those are the type of statements that actually are helpful. And actually, I will say this as well, James, for people who didn't agree with them and the people who've just kept their mouths shut and said nothing, genuinely I'm thrilled as well. Like, I'm thrilled. Like, there were people from videos and from photos and bits and pieces that have been taken that didn't turn around, and that's fine.
I'm going to ask you a question, Matt. Do you think Mr. Gerrit Forrard, do you think he turned around?
I don't know, because I think it was Joe Cran that tweeted out something yesterday, and there was like, if you zoomed in on one of them, I think I reposted it, and it was just a fan staring another fan dead in the face. And I did think, that's got to be quite intense, that. And
Do you think any words were exchanged on that one?
I tell you what, it would have been, they'd have both missed a trick if they hadn't let it just run for like 10, 15 seconds of silence. And the bloke who had turned around and gone, anything happening?
I mean, I must admit, it was a little bit awkward. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's not the view that I normally have of the North Stand from row 17. It's there's a group of fans that sit kind of, must be at the back of the North. And fair play to them, they're constantly trying to get songs going, like constantly. But some work, some don't. They're just too far at the back to kind of really get it going, if I'm being honest. And I don't know who they are, because you don't really, you kind of want to turn around and go like, who's that? Because I have a feeling they're young lads, They might be 40 odd year old. Like, I've absolutely no idea. Like, it could be anyone really, but fair play to them. They do try and get some songs going and whatnot on that north stand.
And you turn around and sit in the back of their heads now.
Yeah, but yeah.
I still don't know what they look like, but they've got nice haircuts, a lot of them.
Well, I don't even know if it's them. I can't really, I don't know where the noise is coming from 100%. But anyway, Mr. Garrett Forward, he did not turn around. And Joe, what I had to say something to him as well yesterday, because he said, this isn't on Chansiri, is it? Where they're playing. And honestly, he constantly has a go at them for absolutely everything. And you know what? There were a few misplaced passes yesterday, quite a lot. Yeah. But you know what? There was a few times where there was a bit of a decent move, and then it was just one shit pass. Yeah. It went out of play. And then there was a ripple of applause from certain fans and what have you. And I'm always one to, applaud the movement before it fucked up. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, this is fucking shit. This is crap. And I just turned around and I said, do you ever support this club? Like, do you ever actually give any, because that's it. He didn't like the fact that people were clapping. Oh, what they're clapping for? They clap out these lot. And he does, quite a lot is aimed at myself, really, to be fair. And I actually turned around and said to him, like, what, you don't support anyone. And I actually said to him, I bet you've got a picture of Chansiri on top of your mantelpiece. And he didn't really know what to say to that, to be fair. But honestly, it winds me up so much. It just gets to the point where I have to say something. I just have to. Steve will go with father-in-law. He's just giggling, laughing. When I've just sees me just like absolutely seething. But there's been a few times where he's not been, and I think he's been to Tenerife or something like that. And I wish he'd go there a bit more often, to be honest.
Sorry, James. Just while you were talking here, I thought I'd do Ian a favour in the chat, because he's been doing everybody who's connected to Sheffield Wednesday a favour this week, where he said there's a survey out on the Trust website that is open to all. Asks what should happen next. Fill it in, please. I've just, hopefully, whilst this is spinning, I have just popped it in the comments there for people to fill in. Ian, if that's not the right one, I do apologise. It was the first one that I could find on there. So yeah, I'm hoping that does give people just kind of like an area to go to, because I know that was just going off in the chat there.
Nice one. Great stuff. Right, I don't think we're going to get onto the match. Apologies, everyone, if you wanted to hear about the game. You can come on the debate show on Wednesday and talk about it. I've seen one here saying, will it be live streamed or something? Natalie there. Is there any live stream for the meeting on Tuesday so supporters who can't be there can see what he said? It's not a fans forum like what was in January. It's the engagement panel. So there is, I didn't realize there's this many, 14 supporters groups or podcasts or fan groups that are part of this engagement panel, which have been invited. I think one representative from each will be there potentially, or they've certainly been invited anyway. And they'll be meeting with Dejphon Chansiri and Trevor and the other lad whose name,
and an interpreter as well, Alistair.
And Alistair, that's it, and an interpreter as well. So obviously, then the meeting will need to be minuted, which they all need to then agree to, and then that will be published on the website at some point. So I don't know when that's going to be. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to be. Hopefully it's going to be sooner rather than later. Because there's no football matches to look forward to, is there really, to be fair? So that is
hey, Stoke on Friday, I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. Drive back from Bristol, drop the family off here, carry on up the M6. Come on, get me in.
Get to the Bet 365. Anyway, there's two things I want to talk about then. One, Keelan Cole Cadamartri, to give him his Sunday name, and the other one is Henrik Pedersen as well. The rumour that he's going to be our next manager for our launch on the Premier League next season with all the under-21s. Anyway, might as well get Neil Thompson in, to be fair, because he'll know most of the players that we're going to be using next season. Let's talk about Keelan then. He's played for England and Scotland at youth level already, despite only being the tender age of 15 years old. Born in 2010. Let that sink in for a second. Mad. He's already scored 22 goals at under 18 level, so he's already playing up a couple of years already. A whole boatload of goals for under 15s and under 16s as well. Scored 5 this weekend in a 6-0 win. Now, it came out this weekend that we've apparently turned down a 7-figure sum bid for him from Man City in recent weeks. what do we do with Keeler? First of all, would you sort of accept that bid? Because we've got money trouble at the moment. It's quite well known that we're struggling for the pound notes right now. What would you do in this situation, Matt?
I know we're going to come on to talking about playing him, but just a reminder and just to ram it home down everybody's throats. This lad is either currently 3 weeks away to sit his GCSEs, or he's a year and 3 weeks away to sit his GCSEs. He is. I couldn't find it on him because honestly I could not find this information on him. He's either a year 10 or year 11 student at school.
Yeah.
For 7 million, what is it? $1 million?
Seven-figure sum. Yeah.
Sell him now in the situation that we are in. Do I think that's what we should be doing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think we should be tying him down to a long-term deal and making these clubs chase our tail for one of the most excellent. Put the teeth back in.
What word are you reaching for there, Matt? I want to know.
Exciting and talented was the two. Excellented is what it's come out as. Exciting. Oh fuck.
Anyway,
give up. He's one of the most talented youngsters in this country currently at his age group. He is battering kids who are 3 years his age group. Now, for somebody who runs a school football team, James, that is a freak of nature. An absolute freak of nature. But let me please just give you an indication of how this can turn out. How this can turn out is, as I said, James, earlier in October, that the students at my school played a game versus staff. Now, none of those students are of the level of Keelan Cole Cadamartri, and none of the playing staff are anything even remotely near a professional footballer.
I kind of know where this is going here.
Scoreline was 32-1. 32-1 in favour of staff. My concern, if you are chucking in him, in playing him now, in my opinion, with our fan base and the current cloud over everything Wednesday related, would be absolutely fucking mental. Even giving him any meaningful minutes. I saw somebody tweet yesterday, he's got to be starting. You what? Starting? Charlie McNeil can't get a game. He's much older, gone through. He's done what this lad's done and a little bit more, and at Man United, and he can't get a game. So, no, if we're going to give him 10 minutes against Stoke, Borough, Pompey, Watford, fine. If he is good enough. Playing a 15-year-old child because he is a child is bonkers just because we've got a couple of misfiring forwards.
Can I just say, because you just mentioned him there, Charlie McNeil, he, at the age, so in 2020, at the age of 17 there, he went to Man United. He went to City.
Yeah.
For
United,
750,000, right?
Yeah.
And he scored 24 goals in 21 games in his first season. So he went to Man United. He went to Man United from City with the under-18s. Now, this is kind of a similar scenario with Cadamartri, isn't it? Really. So a lot of people saying, McNeil's not good enough. What did he do the other day? And I know obviously they can have a different trajectory. I mean, McNeil's 21 now. Yep. This is obviously 4 years ago. Things can change and everything else. But the comparisons are there. So I suppose just because he's scoring this many goals doesn't mean it's going to translate into goals. In the only thing from what you said about you beating the kids 31-1 or whatever it was. This is only one. Sorry, thanks for clarifying that.
Thanks, man.
Was that 30-second goal your goal by any chance? Or
no, mate. No. I scored 12, but there we go. We'll just move on from that.
But what I'm going to make is that's a team of 15 years old. 15
agreed.
Agreed. Whereas this is just going to be one 15-year-old with a lot of 30-odd-year-olds. So actually,
who will be playing a lone frontman role. Against the back line of Stoke, as I think, here we are, Lee Davis has put it in the chat, career-busting injury waiting to happen against Stoke. Don't get me wrong, I understand that there is this, fuck it, play the kids. I mean, you might as well go down to under-12s if we're going to do this. I know he's scoring a lot of goals, and also there was I can't remember the thread, which was to do with Danny Cadamartri's dad had a conversation with somebody when Bailey was breaking through, and he'd said, "Yeah, Bailey's good, but his brother's just wait and see what his brother does." Now, my God, do I hope he goes on to have a good career, this kid. I just think putting somebody in with a 15-year-old lad with our fan base with no history of doing this. If it was Palace, I understand it. If it was Reading, I understand it because they have a history, and Southampton, they have a history of doing this. The first one that you do that with, say Southampton, for argument's sake, is Theo Walcott. Theo Walcott goes, irrespective of whether you think he hit the heights, he went on to have a stellar career. It's got to be a hell of a player to chuck them into a league fixture at 15 years old.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's great that Man City are looking at him and they've
100%.
put in a potential bid, but I think they do that with a lot of play. They a million. Well, let's say it's $1 million. It's just 7 figures. I mean, that could go up to 9,999,000. But let's just say it is $1 million. Then they've got a lot of £1 million to spend. They can just spend that on someone of this age. And if he comes off, great. If he doesn't, it doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? He'll probably, just look at all the other players that have come out of academies and stuff like that and still go on to have a decent career if he did end up at Man City. But I think it comes out of desperation again. Had we, Ike Ogbo's got 15 goals this season. If that would have happened, are we sat here talking about playing Keelan Cadamartri against Stoke? No. We're not at all. Because we don't need to. We're probably talking about, actually, if he's scoring that many goals in youth level, he needs to be going out on loan. Something. And do you know what? I do feel like that's what should happen. Maybe between now and the end of the season. The first thing, he needs to go to these away games that we've got coming up. The two that we've got, he needs to travel with the squad, ideally. Travel with them, get that kind of experience, and then really next season he needs a loan deal. But then you look at all the other news that's come. We haven't even talked about these parents that have come out and slated Chansiri about the way that they've been treated with the loan deals and stuff like that. Again, that I know obviously Danny Cadamartri is a bit more switched. He's been there and done that, and he's been through it all. So maybe it's a little bit different. But still, I don't think Dejphon really cares. But really, in an ideal world, he'd go out to a League Two club maybe. And then you hope that he tears it up in the first up until January. Then he goes to a League One club, and then next season he's like, "I'm ready." Do you know what I mean? I'm ready to start. I did have a look actually at this season. I think there was a 16-year-old that played a minute for Blackburn, Igor Tyjon. He's only played a minute all season, and this was back in September. So that's clearly not worked out for him that well.
Nope.
The other one is Chris Rigg. He's the next youngest. He's 17, 38 appearances. But again, he's 17, not 15. He's at least a year older. Could even be over 2 years older than him. So
because that is the concern. Sorry, James, just to cut in there. This lad at this age, I think we probably have enough sample size to suggest that he will play professional football somewhere in his lifetime. He will play a professional game of football somewhere in his lifetime. Of that, I'm fairly sure. There's no doubt. We've had England clamouring after him. He's obviously played for Scotland. And he's chose Scotland at youth level, and he bangs in goals for fun for them. He bangs in goals for fun for us. Goal scorers are a rare commodity. He will get an opportunity to do so. But a lot happens to a person between the ages of 15 and 20. An awful lot happens to them. They change not only physically in terms of their development, they also change massively mentally. They also change in terms of what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what they are good at, what they are bad at. And up until this point, it appears that this is a player who has had no real serious injury. I just find it absolutely bonkers that, as you say, because we've signed a goal scorer who's not scoring goals, he's the answer. He's not the answer. At this point in time, this young kid is not the answer. Take the pressure off him and let him play football. Let him enjoy, let him develop. And do you know what? If he signs for us and he continues, because again, we can't even offer him a professional contract at the minute because he's 15. If he chooses to stay with us and continue his development and he breaks into our first team, I'm thrilled for him. Genuinely delighted for him. But it's the same message that I have for any sort of young footballer of that age. Enjoy your football no matter where that is. Like, genuinely. Enjoy your football no matter where that is.
Daniel said last game of the season at home, have him on the bench for that experience. He's also said same with Will Granger, if he's not already on his way, because that's one of the rumours that Will Granger is another player that might not be with us next season.
That just, I know we're not going to be able to have the time to touch on it, James, but that was absolutely appalling what was done in the week about Chansiri basically not signing off on players and refusing to meet with them until the following day. That was, and we are talking here about genuinely these, for him, it might not be, I've not got an hour in the day, so I'm just going to push it. I'm just going to cancel it. They're not that important. For these young men, it is their life. It is.
You're shitting yourself, aren't you?
It is everything for them, and it is everything to them, because they have been dreaming about that moment of being offered a deal or retained since they were about 3 or 4 years old and they first kicked a ball in anger in a garden or a park or a street. It is absolutely vile, and just another prime example of why people turn to social media to vent their frustration, because they can't do it at the club, because the club isn't forward and front facing in these matters.
But this comes back to the whole any other club. I mean, this might happen at other clubs, but because all this is happening now, all these things are getting picked up on and talked about.
100%.
You know, it could happen every other club up and down the country. It just sounds wrong because it's young kids. And that's why it gets highlighted and talked about. So, and that's because it's an absolute shit show at the moment. Sarah said, "Charlie Boy's the answer. I hope." G35 Owls said a 15-year-old played for Leicester in the week. Yeah, I saw that actually.
The only thing that I would say to that is, again, another team that has a history of promoting youth players, and their fans are more accepting than it has of it. Our fans are not. I mean, we aren't accepting of, Charlie McNeil is a prime example. This is a kid who scored boatloads of goals as a youth team player. People are angry about the fact that he's not had first team football. You wait until he goes 6 games without a goal. Oh my God. Well, he's crap. Yeah. Get off it. I saw him miss yesterday, that pass. We were talking about it before we were recording, weren't we, James, about that pass that he played through to Gassama, and Gassama stopped his run. Yeah, and actually, the pass was into the right area. It split the 2 defenders in the middle, and it had gone into the area where Gassama was running to. Gassama threw his hands up, and everyone's going, "Oh, what a shit pass." What? It's a good ball. Genuinely, it's a good ball. The player into him has stopped his run because he doesn't know if he's going to release it or shoot or do whatever. The only thing that I would say, because I would expect Charlie McNeil to get some game time, obviously, before the end of the season, I'd like to see him get some more shots off. Just hit it, kid.
Well, to be fair, he did have one from about 20, 25 yards, which kind of P-rolled.
Yeah.
He didn't quite hit it right. And I said to Steve, I'm all for that. Like, have shots.
100%.
Like, I don't really care. Like, just have a go. I mean, we had 15 shots apparently, 2 on target yesterday. Yep. Gary said he scored 5 versus Colchester, so let's not get carried away. Would he score versus Liverpool Youths or City or Arsenal? The only thing I'd said to that is you can only score against who you're playing against. Speak to the academy why we're not a Cat 1 academy. That's why we're having to play against these sorts of sides. I think he scores. Does he score many goals at international level? I don't know if he has.
Yeah,
I think he has scored a few on it for Scotland.
And it's apologies for any Scottish listeners. It's Scotland, so he's not like He's not like when we were watching George Hurst come through with England, and he's been, he's been given the service by the best players at one of the best nations in the world at this game. I'm really not meaning to do a disservice here to Scotland. He's playing with players who are of a significantly less quality to potentially what this kid has, and he still finds a way to bang goals and get assists.
Yeah, true. Let's talk about Henrik Pedersen then. So
go on then.
Just a couple of hours before we've started this stream, our good friend Simon put out a tweet and a quote: "Waiting on the I's dotting and the T's crossing for Pedersen as manager. Verbally agreed, though, since the role situation isn't probably sorted, it won't be announced officially, but that's what's happening. Henrik does a lot of the in-possession technical stuff, which has been so good under role. Expecting a continuation of the same style next season. It's the right option, in my opinion." I've just seen you just highlighted it.
Yeah, sorry. It's just for anybody who did see me just wildly celebrate here, is because I'd seen Gary's comment in the chat, which says Rory's 3 clear. So come on.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Henrik Pedersen then. Obviously, it's just a rumor at the moment.
It is.
Let's just say it happens then. Let's say Danny Reel goes and Henrik Pedersen is announced as the new Sheffield Wednesday manager. What would your feelings be on that one?
Try not to be harsh here about a prospective coach.
Not thrilled.
Underwhelmed and cheap, but
yeah,
underwhelmed, cheap, but I can understand the logic and the thinking behind it surrounding attempting to continue the process of what has potentially been started here, which is if this happens, it is an admission from the chairman that this manager's ideas are groundbreaking, revolutionary, and something that he wants to continue because he bounced from Darren Moore to Cisco Munoz to this, from Darren Moore to Tony Pulis, so all of these. So he's not found someone who he wants to stick with since Carvajal left and he tried to appoint Lahukai because he thought he was going to be the same, and what a shambles that turned out to be. My concern would be just surrounding the fact of you can try and implement this style all you want without the actual weapons at your disposal to do so. You're going to get a watered down version of this. And this is not me really trying to batter Pedersen at all, because am I right in thinking, James, he is our attacking or our I suppose to borrow an Americanism, our offensive coach in terms
I believe so. Yeah.
He deals with a lot of the moves that we have when we're going forward, which some of the football that we've played going forward this season, I do genuinely think we would forget around that November, December time, was truly sparkling. Some of the moves have been great, genuinely great. But we've got 12 out of contract players with no money to spend, and you want to implement a brand of football that has the ball on the floor and it's not very battling. It's not. I just don't think it works. Is the
that's it? I'm going to kind of contradict myself if you're a long-time listener, because I've said about you need to have an identity, and then the next manager kind of needs to continue with what's been trying to be done, because you don't want this big clear out every single transfer window. And I hate seeing the excuse they're not my players from both manager and fans as well. Give him time. They're not his players. And then you have to wait 2 transfer windows for that to even change. And even then, by that point, they're sacked. And then the cycle keeps going. So I'm a firm believer of you need to, if it's kind of working, stick with that. It's more cost effective to bring a manager in that will work with the players that you've got, maybe in a slightly different way. However, as you've just rightly pointed out, I've been banging the drum this season about Danny Reel being the right manager, just the wrong time, because we haven't simply got the players in the right sort of caliber to actually do what he's actually trying to do. So, more to the point, if he's going to play the same style of football, we're just going to be in the same situation. Maybe we're not going to be any better, probably even worse, because we need to replace Shea Charles, next season. He's going to go back to Southampton. That's Barry Bannon's another year older. These other players that are out of contract. Windass would be surprised if he stays for another season. There's loads of players that we have to replace, and no money either. So how the hell do we do that and get any better than what we are at the moment? We just don't. So I feel like I saw comments in on the Discord about we perhaps need a Gary Rowett type of manager that can work with this level of players that we've actually got.
Yeah, I've just highlighted this comment from SWFC 2020. We haven't got the players, but Millwall are 7th. Let's not kid ourselves, lads. Yeah, because Millwall have got an identity. Millwall know exactly what they are. They appoint a coach who fits that style. It doesn't matter about the quality of players. I would argue that Millwall side is still better than ours. We might have 1 or 2 players who are in there, but I'd argue over the course of a 25-man squad, Millwall probably have a better side than us.
But guess what? They sold a player for 15 million?
Yeah.
So they shift players on, and they can probably sign players for. They probably spent more on their transfers than what we did. We're having to again shop in the middle aisle at Aldi all the time. And you get
SWFC 2020. Sorry, James, to cut you off. I would agree with you 100% if we were maybe 10, 15 games into a season. After 42 games of a season, you finish where you deserve to. By the end of the coming at Maybank holiday weekend, isn't it? Watford away, wherever we finish, we firmly deserve to finish. There's no ifs or buts after that amount of time.
Well, this kind of segues perfectly. Let's look at the time as well. 30 seconds left to an hour and a half. It segues perfectly into, and it's going to be controversial. Like, should Danny Röhl shoulder some of the blame for this form that we're on? I know we've not spoken about the game at all. Again, apologies. Join the debate show on Wednesday. We'll talk about it all on Wednesday instead. But there's been some people almost that embarrassed really to say it, and I'm sure a lot of people have been thinking it. You know, the form, it's been terrible. Like, there's no two ways about it. No home win in 8. No home win since the start of the year when we beat Derby with that goal, of course. The away form's been all right, but not been great. I think we're now five games without a win, 3 defeats and 2 draws. We haven't scored in the last 3 home games either. Like, it's not for, it don't give great reading. And there's a few people saying that, you know, in any other scenario, the manager would be getting some criticism. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that on Extra Time. So if you want to hear us debate that, then head over to Patreon, patreon.com/WTID pod. It's the link's already there. It'll be a YouTube live stream just like this one, so you can go ahead and watch it. You don't go to the channel to find it. You have to go over to Patreon, subscribe, and then the link will be there that you can find us. We'll be on there in about 5 or 10 minutes time. So do join us. But just to give you a bit of a flavour, what sort of stance are you taking? Just a quick.
I don't think anybody absolves themselves of criticism in this situation of how this season's played out is the honest answer. I think, yes, while fan anger should be firmly directed at the owner, because obviously it's his name above the door, it's ultimately his poor choices that are coming home to roost. There's definitely an argument to be said that 5 wins in, 19 that I said at the start of the show, can't dress that up in a positive way. There's no way you can dress that up in a positive way. There's no positivity that comes from that. You know, I've been this huge on here when I've mentioned West Brom and said they've not won back-to-back games since September and blah, blah, blah. We've not been great since everybody fell out in December. And it takes 2 to tango in that respect. And this isn't me jumping on the bandwagon because, you know, he's likely off to a new club. I still think he's one of the most exciting young coaches in the country. I still think he will go on to be a top division manager somewhere, whether that's his next move or whether that's kind of like in the future and down the line, because I think he is tactically more aware than any manager that I have seen at Hillsborough in terms of he's very open to when he gets it wrong. He's also very astute in in-game switches that have seen us pick up more points in late on in games and more points from losing positions than any other side still in the division, aren't we? I think we are still the side which shows that he's very, very flexible, which shows that he's creative and adaptive. But you can't dress up 4 wins from 19 in a positive spin. There's no way to do it.
Yeah, and it is ironic, in it. It's all since it kind of happened in December when 100%. The other interest came in, which coincidence or not, I don't know. Again, patreon.com/WTID pod. If you want to go and listen to us debate that, I'll put the link in the comments so you can go and head over there. And yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining. Yeah. Again, do join us tomorrow when we're going to be talking to the Reading fans about whether we are heading in the same direction as what Reading are. I've seen a few comments from Reading fans saying, this is how we started. And I'm thinking, started? Beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that kind of... Is that how not very far on in this saga we are? Like, I thought we were certainly at the end game at this point, but yeah, we'll be talking to the Reading fans, the people behind the Sell Before We Die fan protest movement. Just talking a little bit about Reading, but also seeing how many similarities there are between Reading and us at the moment, and seeing if there's asking them what they think we should do as a fan base in order to try and help things along. SWFC said, "Can Patreon play centre back?" Yeah, I did try and write Patterson, but
hey mate, we've got people coming back up in the defensive line. We've got people. We need someone who's up front scoring goals.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ugbo isn't injured. That's not the reason why he's not scoring. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining, as always. Loads of things. Just head over to the socials. You see all the things that we post out on there, all the episodes and everything else. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time.